good morning. It is morning over here on this beautiful Sunday. We have a 2-hour drive, and I'm here with the hubby, and I just thought, hey, why not do a video right now talking about what I went through, what we went through in regards to infertility. And I think I shared some chats about that in other videos that was mixed with other conversation. So this one is going to be a straight chat in regards to
God bless you, Robo.
what I went through in regards to infertility. And we have the little one in the back. Okay, so my journey might be similar to others, and my thoughts and feelings might be similar to others, and not. Everybody is different in their thoughts and their desires and their wants in certain aspects as it relates to infertility. There are people that if they can't get pregnant, they rather just stay childless and not adopt somebody else's child. I was I was told that, wow, I don't know if I could love somebody else's child. And I'm like, I was taken back, but then I had to understand where they were coming from. But it did hurt a little bit when that was said. I don't know if I could love somebody's child. That was told to me by a woman, and even my husband was told that by a friend, which is a male friend. And so I'm like, okay, does that make us special that we can actually love a child that did not come from us? I don't know. But anyway, my journey in theory started when I was in high school. And I remember a teacher who was not even my teacher. I think I skipped in her class. I had friends that attended her class. I remember her getting pregnant multiple times, but she lost each child. I remember seeing her go from black hair to gray, to even being put on a wheelchair because she was high-risk pregnancy, but she came to work. And I just saw her whole face change from looking young to looking older. And I remember that so detailed. And I remember hearing that she and her husband had parted ways, and that the problem of not being able to hold a pregnancy and have a child may have something to do with it. Why I remember that, I have no idea, when that woman was not even my teacher. But it stuck with me. It stuck with me because I said to myself, I don't want to be her. I don't want to be her, in a sense of I don't want to ever be in a place of not able to have a child, to let it get to me to where I look like her, unhappy, from young to old, stress, or even let a man cause me to deteriorate because he want a child and I can't have one. I'm like, no. Not for man, not for wanting to have a child. I said I did not want to be her. And I remember that up until today. So throughout my life, I remember. The second incident was with my aunt, who got married in her mid to late 30s. And they wanted to have children, but could not have children. And there was blame put on each other. She may have blamed him, but as a result of his family blaming her, because it's big in our culture, in the Haitian culture. They live in Haiti. And so for him and her not to have children, that was like, okay, what's wrong with you? And of course, it's always looked at as if the woman only is the issue or the blame of infertility. And so when they end up separating and splitting, but end up finding out months so later after the split that she was pregnant, and he didn't believe it was his until the baby was born, so they waited out and they got back together. Again, another incident where I said, I do not want to be her. Nor let a man put me in a place where I question my worth and who I am because I'm not able to bear a child. I'm like, no. And then I also did not want to have children. I said I did not want to have children, and that came from being the oldest of 5, and then my youngest sibling is 12 years apart, so I had a lot to play in helping out with that. And she was somewhat spoiled. I'm like, oh no, this is what it's about at a young age. I think that was about junior high. I said, oh, I do not want to have children. I do not want to have children. This is work. And that went throughout my life as well, all the way up until I got married. I got engaged, and then it started to change. And when I got married, then we talked about having children and adopting when we were engaged. Yes, when we were engaged, we talked about having children. We talked about either adopting. We talked about adopting. We talked about having children. So for me, okay, we'll have one child and adopt one. So that was always the thing from the beginning. Not knowing that there were going to be infertility issues, we said that we would adopt one child and have one child, even though my husband wanted 3 or 10. He went from 10 to 3. Anyway, so we talked about that. We agreed, and it would wait maybe a year after being married to, have that time for ourselves, and then plan on having children. And so we got married. The year went by to start planning. I'm like, oh no, let's wait another year, because I was like kind of somewhat fearful of being a mother, knowing that my whole life was going to change, knowing that it was going to be more responsibility, more work. So there was a little fear that I had about motherhood. And so I wanted to wait another year, and my husband was on board. We waited another year. And then all of a sudden I'm ready. I'm ready. I was ready a little before the year was over. The second year was over. I was ready. But we hold out to that whole 2 years, and then I'm ready. I was ready like it was yesterday. So we started, getting ready to have a baby, get pregnant. And then after that first try to get pregnant, I'm like, I'm pregnant. My husband said, how do you know you're pregnant? Don't you gotta wait to take a test? I'm like, oh no, but I already know. I just know I'm pregnant. And I believed that I was pregnant, because what would be wrong with me? What would be wrong with me for me not to get pregnant? I'm healthy, I eat healthy. Why wouldn't I get pregnant? So I'm pregnant. Then came my period. I don't remember how I felt that day, but I know I don't remember the details. If I cried, but I know I wasn't pleased that my period came. So okay, so we try again. My period comes. Now I'm not happy. I'm confused. But I said to myself, I was never going to ask, why me? But not knowing that I was suppressing my emotions. Emotions would come out unplanned, like I wasn't planning, that affected me in different ways. So, example, there was a baby shower being planned, or we're planning to go to, and we went to go buy diapers. We went to go buy diapers. We had this because that's what they wanted. They wanted diapers. So we're getting diapers. We're like, oh shoot, there's numbers on these things. Mind you, there's 5 of us. I have 4 siblings. I'm the oldest of 5, and I think at this point my brother had My brother was the only one that had children, but we went for years with no children, no nieces and nephews. Okay, so none, and he was the only one that had a child. I think it was one at a time, but anyway. And so I'm buying diapers, and we're like, oh, there's numbers on these boxes. So how do we know what we get? So I saw somebody that had a child. I'm like, oh, we're here to buy diapers for a baby shower, a newborn. What diaper number should we be getting? And then I think I don't know if it was she told us and then I cried, or we went to go get the box she told us to get, and I started crying. Do you remember? Do you remember, sweetie? Okay, he doesn't remember. So I looked, and I think while she was standing there and she told us, I cried. I burst into tears. One, I was trying to get pregnant. We were trying to get pregnant, and that wasn't happening. And then two, the habit where I didn't know what to get. I'm like, so that made me unqualified to be a mother. So I just felt bad, and for both reasons, not getting pregnant, and like, okay, if I got pregnant, I'm not even fit to be a mother. I don't know what diapers I would get my child. So I just started crying there, and that was the beginning. That was the beginning of emotions coming out that I didn't know. A second time I cried I was at the thrift store, and walking down the aisle, I heard a woman say, "Mommy," and I just bust out crying. I just busted out crying because somebody was saying "Mommy," and it wasn't to me. And I didn't know why I would feel these feelings, because I was always okay with not having children. I thought I was. I was okay with adopting, so that was not an issue. But I was still, I'm still human, and did not recognize that part. I am still woman. I did not recognize that part. I thought I'm a woman of faith. I don't mind adopting. Why am I hurt or emotionally hurt or crying? And I started to say, do I not have faith? So my mother wanted me to get tested. I'm like, why? Because even though I get tested, I'm not doing anything. I didn't want to do any IVF or anything like that. I did not. That's why I said in the beginning, everybody's journey, everybody's size is different. I'm like, if I can't have kids, I'll adopt. It doesn't matter. But I did want to check if there was vitamin deficiencies or stuff like that was preventing me. So eventually, fast forward, I did take a test. It's for my, cortisol levels, the stress level, and all of that. Even though stress does play a role in it. And everything was fine. Everything showed that I was fine. But the focus was always on me. So I still did things to help me get pregnant, what have you. And then nothing. And it wasn't months later, and I'm skipping some things to make this video not too long. It wasn't months later, way, way later, that I found out the issue might have been with my husband, whose brother is also not able to have children. And the doctor said it probably runs in the family for other reasons that I wrote on my website. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. It's all right. And then maybe about an hour later, I bust out into tears again. It's almost like I grieve the loss of the ability to have children, because they're the health issue or health related issue with my husband and his brother. Talk about that. And so I grieved that. There was another incident that I mourned. Two other incidents I want to share before that. I knew that the issues also might have been related to my husband. Was my sister-in-law got pregnant, and she got pregnant with twins, and I was like so happy for her. I even cried tears of joy. And then she came to visit us and visit my parents, and we were at my parents, and I knew she was here with my brother. They were downstairs, I was upstairs, and I was told they're here, and I did not leave. I did not go see them. I cried that whole time. I cried like somebody. I lost a relative. I lost a friend, a close friend. I mourned, cried. I cried. Did not know where that came. And the second time I cried like that was Mother's Day. Nobody told me. I went to church on Mother's Day. I was fine. And it was so crazy was that we got there really late. It's almost like my mind subconsciously, it was weird because it's almost like I did not want to go, but did not know I did not want to go. And we got to church late. It was Mother's Day. I did not do Sabbath school. And because I'm a teacher for Sabbath school, got there late. Somebody else took over the class, and I'm like, okay. We got there for church, and somebody gave me a pin for Mother's Day that said, because I was teaching the kids, and I'll get a little emotional. And I remember it was just a kind gift, and she gave the pin and it said, Happy Mother's Day, and something else from the women's ministry. And she said, even though you're not a mother, you're helping children. Or teaching children, something like that. And it's okay. So those are incidents of me tearing up or crying, but all the other times I would suppress it. I would say I'm okay, and I would make sure I didn't cry any longer. And I would always tell myself I was okay. Fast forward. We found out about my husband. I'm like, I'm over it. I was focusing on me and doing all the work on me, and then to go to you and do that, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, I am so good. I am not gonna put more work. I'm worked out. I'm like, good. I said, I accepted you. We good. You good. We good. And my husband was, he wasn't. I don't think he was emotionally phased. Were you phased at all emotionally? Did it hurt you that we couldn't get pregnant?
Oh, ma'am.
And he was so different. He was not because he's like, oh, we got adopt, But while I'm so our handling it was totally extremely different. That sometimes I kind of got mad at him for not understanding how I felt or being able to grieve with me, But we moved to 2 hours away from Atlanta for my parents, and my husband worked in Atlanta, so he stayed at my parents and he got a transfer, so I was home alone. So when you're home alone and you're at home, a housewife, you got time to think. And we had just started taking our foster to adopt classes, fostering class, so that we can adopt through there. And I was being faced with things that I was ignoring. And things that feelings I was suppressing. And going to those classes hit me. The reason why I'm there is because I can't have that. Like, that was the echo. Like, this was plan B, but it wasn't. We always knew that we wanted to adopt.
Even if we have our own kids.
Even if we had our own kids. But I think the order of things was what's different, because it was have first then adopt. Anyway, so going through those courses, those classes, kind of had me to face reality of some things that I wasn't addressing, and I found myself crying more. So there's no more me. Oh, okay, I'm tough. Okay, you got it. Good. And then you back to normal. You functioning. Oh no! Now everybody asks me something, and I start talking about going through these classes. I start crying. I mean, to strangers, people I didn't know, my neighbor. I would cry, and I'm like, "What is wrong with me? Why am I crying? I'm just talking about the process and going through this. Why am I crying?" And then I started crying more, and then I was at home. But I'm telling you, I can't even tell you. There's more I want to say that I'm skipping through, and I know the attention span for us is short, because God sent me an angel in the process, and I'll make that a separate story of how I came to the place of fostering to adopt. God sent me an angel, and her name is Betty. I had met her prior to moving, but anyway. well, actually just a month before he moved, after I found out about my husband. But because I had gotten to create a friendship with her, I was grieving and did not know. And then I asked myself, because I talked to myself, I said, are you grieving? That day I cried like it was nobody's business, like I was mourning. And I called her up and tell her what I was experiencing, and she said, you are grieving. You are grieving. And I think I got to that point after a class that I took that talked about grief. And I was in the phases of grief, and I was going through them all and did not know. Because I thought I didn't have the right to grieve because I didn't physically have a child or have a miscarriage. And she took me through it. I cried, we spoke, she cried with me. I mean, for hours that my husband tried to reach me and call me by calling me, and I would not answer. And then he called the police on me, y'all. He called the police on me, a welfare check, because he was worried because I'd never not answered the phone for that long. He called the police on me. I laugh at it now. I'm like, I tell people, oh, my husband called the police on me, and they're like, and I tell them what really happened. They're like, oh, welfare check. But yeah, I grieved. I mean, I grieved. I screamed. I cried. I yelled. I screamed. I cried. I yelled. I cried. I mean, it was like everything that I suppressed because I didn't have I thought I didn't have the right to, because one, I'm a woman of faith, and two, I'm okay. And then I realized in that conversation, in that grieving process, that it was okay to not be okay. And I did not want to be those women, my aunt and that teacher. And I had become her, and it was okay. Those stories stuck in my head, never knowing that I would not be able to have children. But who says not knowing? I would not. Let me change the language. That I was not able to have children when we were trying. And then I never wanted a lot of children either. So, and then it made me wonder, like, did I curse myself by saying I didn't want children? And I had to make sure I wasn't beating myself in the head for things that I'm saying, because there's other factors for infertility, environmental, especially environmental, the food, stuff that's happening in food, the pesticides. There are things that are causing us not to be able to get pregnant, both in men and women. So that was what all that I was going through in our journey. And there's moments that it hits you, especially going through this foster care. Like, if we wanted to spend $25,000 or so to do a private adoption, it probably would have been easier to going through the foster system. It was hitting me again even more early on, but through the mid part of it, it was like, okay, I'm not gonna let you get to me saying. But in the beginning of the process, trying to get over the hump of grieving, I was faced more of not being able to get pregnant when you're dealing with the foster system, and you realize the amount of control that you have is but almost to zero. But I'm telling you, God has blessed in so many ways that I had to trust Him completely, and I'll share more testimonies about that in another video. But God has blessed us so much that I hear other people's stories and realize, okay, you're working it out for me, God. You're working it out for us. And we are blessed after 2 months. We finished the class in March, April, May. By 2 months later, we had a child in our home. We had a 3-month-old baby in our possession. God just knew. And I wanted a boy, and God just knew. And so we're just still learning to trust Him in all the process, knowing that it's not in our control, finding peace with everything and being okay. I mean really okay. And then being okay when I'm not okay as well, because there's still moments that still come up and creep in, but you are truly okay, even with those little triggers that come to you, or those reminders of the infertility. it's okay. And then there's the thing called pregnancy envy that I didn't think exists. I'm not sure if I went through that, but I might have. I'm not sure. Maybe with my sister-in-law. But you do look at people like, yo, how you got pregnant? Like, you don't even eat healthy. But I really was intentional about not doing that. And I might have did that maybe twice. But I was very intentional about not saying, Lord, why me? Why not me? And about, looking at other people and in a sense of like, Lord, why she got to be pregnant? But you did feel something. I did feel something like, yo, okay. And it reminded you like you didn't get to go through that. Another thing that hit me is though we had the little one here that I didn't get to have a baby shower. And that's superficial, but it hit me when somebody made a kilt or something. Like they actually did something from scratch. It was a kilt. Anyway, they made it. They sewed it. Yeah, it was a kilt. I think I'm saying it wrong. But anyway, she made that and gave a teddy bear and put it in a bag. It was so beautiful. And with a card, and I started crying. And like, see, these are things, this is recently. So there's things that will trigger even though like you're okay. There's still triggers. And this one happened recently, a couple of months ago. And it reminded me of the part that was skipped because I did not get pregnant. And I did not have to throw a baby shower. And so I didn't have that. And so when she gave me the gift, it reminded me like I could have had these things if I had a child through my womb. I had delivered a child or getting pregnant so that I could throw a baby shower and have gifts like what she gave me. So it's those little things that come up, but I think I was not empathetic or sympathetic or understanding or understood people that went through infertility. And sometimes you can't relate to something until you're in it. And I have respect for everything or everyone that is going through something that I haven't or am not going through. And I try to be more cautious about what I say and how I say it, not perfect, because it's their hurt. It's their journey. I may not understand it. I may not relate to it. I may not have gone through it, but I could just listen as they experience their journey or they vent. When I have friends that vent for other things that have gone on in their life. And that's basically it. That was, in a nutshell, my experience through my youth and now into my adulthood. Now, I have to say, having a child is work. When they say, and I have to just be honest. When they say the grass ain't green on the other side, like you all know what you can't have, but then you realize, it was not so bad. But we enjoy, we love our child. My husband loved. But it is work. That's what I talked about when I was younger. Oh, it's work. It is work. It literally is work. But I don't know if God will have us to have more children. I am okay with one. If that changes, I will let y'all know. But it have to be God coming to me like he came to Mary and Joseph for me to have more children. But it is a blessing. He is a blessing. He calls me Mama. He calls him Dada. But it is definitely a joy, and we are at peace, and we just thank God. Yeah. And if I was in a circle of women, it would really be wrong. It would be wrong. And if you think it's a conversation that we should have and talk a little bit more about the process, if you're looking to foster, knowing what you should know before you coming into it, if you want to go through that part to adopt, knowing the whole journey of that, and and triggers and stuff like that, if you want to have a conversation via Zoom and the whole thing, and sharing one another, speaking to women that relate, because I know a few more that are trying to get pregnant that are not. One that's considering going through foster care. One that's still trying. I had a friend that went through IVF and finally, after the second try, finally got pregnant. So there's different people on different journeys as it relates to infertility. And then there's the ones that finally got pregnant at 49. You know, so everybody's journey is different. Everybody's result and outcome is different. And I just say walk in your own journey. Until next time, always be blessed.